What if I told you that the breakfast you're eating every morning because you think it is healthy could actually be leaving you hungry, tired, and craving sugar just a few hours later? And I'm not talking about donuts and chocolate. Nobody's eating that for breakfast, I hope. I'm talking about breakfast that many of us have been told are healthy. So things like your cereal, your toast, your porridge, your fruit juice, your flavored yogurt, and maybe banana and cup of coffee. And then you're wondering, why am I so hungry again after a couple of hours? Why am I craving something sweet? What makes me always crave for sweet things? Or you're wondering, why am I so tired? And sometimes you blame yourself. You feel it's something to do with you not having the willpower or the discipline to control your appetite. But as a GP and a lifestyle medicine physician, I want you to understand something really important, something that will help you to navigate this. Because sometimes it's not really a problem with your willpower, it's actually the composition of your meal. So your breakfast can influence how hungry you feel, how satisfied you are, your energy levels, and your food choices later in the morning. Isn't that powerful? To think that what you eat in the morning can determine your food choices for the rest of the day. And if you're someone who is trying to lose weight or manage your blood sugar or reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes, or you just want to feel more active and show up more powerfully in your life, your breakfast matters. So today, I'm going to show you how to build a breakfast that is much more likely to give you steady energy and lasting fullness. And I'm going to give you some very practical examples that you can actually start using tomorrow morning. But before we go there, if you have not pre-ordered my new book, From Fat to Free, the link is below, or use the QR code on the screen to order it. This book will end your struggles with weight issues. No more worrying if the seat on the plane would be your size, or you're looking for extra large gowns, or you continue to struggle with obesity or sleep apnea. So order now at the link below, and let's get back to the show. Let me paint you a picture. Maybe you wake up in the morning, you're in a rush, you get the children ready for school, and you have also got to go to work. And you get to work, you have emails, waiting for you to action. At some point, you grab something quickly, maybe a bowl of cereal, something easy. Just pour the cereal into your bowl with some milk, or maybe you take a couple of slices of toast, or even a piece of fruit. So you have your coffee, and you're thinking, at least I've had some breakfast. So you start to work. But by 10 a.m. or 10:30, you're already hungry. You start thinking about food. You want something sweet. And maybe to delay your meal, you decide to have another coffee. It might be that someone has brought in some biscuits into the office. So you tell yourself, I'm just going to have one. But in the end, you end up having three or four. And then lunchtime comes. Now you're absolutely starving. You're really very hungry now. So you eat something, you eat really quickly, and perhaps you eat more than you intended because you're really, really starving now. So you eat a bit more than you plan to eat. And then you spend the whole afternoon feeling sluggish. You just want a bed to go and lie down somewhere. And by evening, you're thinking, why am I eating so much? This has become a cycle, and people often think the solution is I need more discipline, I need more willpower. But I want you to step back and ask a different question. I want you to reflect on your meals. Ask yourself what happened earlier in the day that contributed to this. Because sometimes the problem started with your breakfast. A lot of breakfast advice we've been giving has been focused on calories. How much calories are in your cereal? How many calories are in your toast bread? How many calories are in your porridge? And calories do matter. They're really important. Don't get me wrong. Calories are important, but they are not the full story. And if you focus only on calories, you're going to keep missing it. So the quality and composition of your meal really matters, not just the calorie. Imagine two breakfasts containing similar amounts of calories. Maybe this breakfast, same amounts of calories, okay? Breakfast one is mainly rapidly digested carbohydrates. Breakfast two contains protein, might contain some fiber, some healthy fats, and minimally processed carbohydrates. They may provide similar calories. These two meals have the same amount of calories, but they can affect your fullness, your digestion, your appetite, and your blood sugar. The way they affect your blood sugar will be very, very different. This is why I don't want you to think breakfast is good or breakfast is bad. That's not the issue. Instead, I want you to ask, what is my breakfast made of? I hope you're thinking, what am I eating for breakfast? Because a bowl of highly sweetened cereal is very, very different from a bowl of plain rolled oats that you had with some nuts and seeds. A slice of white toast with jam is very different from whole grain toast with eggs and vegetables. And fruit juice is very different from eating the whole fruits. So let's talk about what actually happens when you have your breakfast. What happens? When you eat a meal that is very high in carbohydrates, your digestive system quickly breaks it down. It breaks the carbohydrate down into glucose. That glucose enters your bloodstream and your blood sugar rises. Your pancreas, which is an important organ in your body, responds by producing insulin. So insulin is a very important hormone. And if you follow my channel, you know I speak about insulin a lot. So one of its job is to move the glucose from your bloodstream into the cells where it can be used for energy or where it can be stored. So insulin is not the enemy. We all need insulin. We need insulin. The problem is that our modern diets, the way we eat now, can sometimes expose us to large amounts of rapidly digested carbohydrates, particularly when they are eaten without much protein, fiber, or fat. So think about a breakfast of sugary cereal, white toast, jam, and even a glass of fruit juice. Now you have several sources of rapidly available carbohydrates coming together in one meal. Your blood sugar can rise really quickly, particularly if you're insulin resistant or you have impaired glucose regulation. Your body doesn't handle glucose properly. So your body will have to respond to all that sugar. And depending on the individual and the meal, the glucose may then come down again with the help of insulin. But when it drops, you're going to feel hungry again. You may feel less energetic. You may start looking for more food. But I want to be careful here because not everyone will experience like a dramatic blood sugar crash. And feeling hungry doesn't automatically mean that your blood sugar has crashed. There are many other factors that influence your hunger and your energy levels. You know, things like how much sleep you get, how stressed you are, your activity level, your hormones, the actual size of the meal, and your individual metabolism, your own body, how you metabolize food. But the important principle is this: a breakfast that is made mostly of rapidly digested carbohydrates is often less satisfying than a balanced meal. Okay, it's less satisfying than a balanced breakfast containing protein and fiber. And that is what I want you to remember. So here's an analogy I often use. Think about your body like a fireplace. Imagine you put a handful of dry paper into the fireplace. What happens? It's going to burn really quickly, isn't it? You get a big flame and then, boom, it's gone. Now, imagine that you put a thick log, a piece of wood into that same fire. It's going to burn more slowly. It's going to give you longer lasting source of heat. So I'm not saying that your food is fireplace, of course, but it's a useful way to think about the difference between foods that are rapidly digested and absorbed and meals that contain a combination of protein, fiber, fat, and less processed carbohydrates. So a breakfast of sugary cereal and juice can be like putting that paper in the fire. It gives you energy, yes, but it may not keep you satisfied for very long. You see the difference. Whereas a breakfast containing protein, fiber, healthy fats, whole food carbohydrates, that's more like putting a log in the fire. It's going to give your digestive system much more to work with. It tends to keep you fuller for longer. It can help you avoid constant snacking, can help you avoid that constant cycle of eat, hungry, snack, eat, hungry, snack, you know. So, what should a good breakfast contain? Let's talk about what should actually be in a proper breakfast. I'm going to make this really simple. When you're building your breakfast, I want you to think about four things. Again, I encourage you to pre-order my book, From Fat to Free. I've made it all clear in the book. I've also put a 14-day plan that you can print out and just follow the plan. So, if you're building breakfast, I want you to think about four things. Number one is your protein. Protein is incredibly important for satiety. You eat again because you're not full, but protein helps you to stay fuller for longer. And it's also important for maintaining your muscles. As we all get older, we have to maintain muscle mass. It's really important. So, where can you get your protein? You get your protein from your eggs, from your beans, from your lentils, your fish, your meat, your cheese, cottage cheese, and depending on your dietary preferences, other protein rich foods. So find proteins that you enjoy, and stick with them. You don't have to eat meat if you don't want to, but meat is a very good source of protein. Number two, I want you to think about fiber. Fiber is your friend, and many people simply aren't getting enough. Fiber comes from foods such as your vegetables, your fruits, your rolled oats, not the instant oats, okay? Your lentils, your beans, your nuts, your seeds like chia seed, sunflower seed, things like that. Whole grains also are a good source of fiber. And fiber does several useful things. Fiber is so useful. It can help support your gut health. It can help you feel full for longer. And I want you to choose high fiber carbohydrate foods because these generally produce a slower, more gradual glucose response than highly refined carbohydrate foods. So, number three, I want you to think about healthy fats. Don't be afraid of healthy fats. I'm talking about foods such as nuts, foods such as seeds, peanut butter without added salt and sugar, or other nut butters like almond nut butter, avocado, olive oil. These foods can contribute to satiety. They keep you full and they make your meals more satisfying. So remember, fat isn't automatically bad, okay? It's the type and the overall amount that matters. Number four, I want you to think about whole food carbohydrates when you're thinking about your breakfast. So I'm not going to tell you to eliminate carbohydrates completely. That's not my message because carbohydrates are found in many nutritious foods. There are many foods that contain carbohydrates, like your beans. Beans has carbohydrates. It has a high amount of fiber, and that offsets the carbs in it. Things like your vegetables have carbohydrates, your fruits have carbohydrates and so on. So I'm not saying eliminate all carbohydrates from your meal. The issue is that many people consume carbohydrates that are highly refined and very easy to overeat. So instead of your white bread and juice and jam, I want you to think whole grain bread with eggs and vegetables instead. So instead of sugary cereals and juice, I want you to think rolled oats with berries, nuts and seeds. It's about changing the quality and the balance of your breakfast. Do we get that? Please let me know in the chat if you're following. I want you to drop in the comment section, say this is making sense. Here are 4 breakfast ideas I would recommend. These are just ideas, you can build on it. And if I mention something that is not readily available where you are, please substitute with something similar, okay? These are just suggestions. Because I know some of you might be saying, this is all wonderful, doctor, but what am I actually supposed to eat? Let's make it practical. And I have a chapter on this in my book, From Fat to Free. So please pre-order at the link below. So breakfast number 1, eggs. So egg is the protein. Add some spinach, add some tomatoes, add mushrooms or some other vegetables. So you bulk it up so that it's filling, okay? You can have a slice of wholemeal toast if you want. 1 slice if you're trying to manage your weight. I wouldn't recommend more than 1, maximum 2, but 1 should be enough. So that way you have protein, you have fiber, you have vegetables, and you have a sensible portion of carbohydrates. So that's a very different breakfast from white toast with jam and a glass of orange juice. So another idea for you, Greek yogurt. So I'm not talking about the flavored sugary yogurt, just plain Greek yogurt. So that's the protein. Now you're going to add some seeds to it, your chia seed, your flax seed, some nuts. You can grind the nuts so it's a bit crunchy. You can add some berries. Berries are fruits, but they're really high in fiber. So that's why I recommend them. If you need additional sweetness, let the berries do the work. You don't necessarily need to pour honey and sugar over everything. This one is quick, it's easy, and you can prepare it the night before. Right, so another breakfast idea for you is around oats. Whenever I mention oats, I don't mean the instant oats. I mean rolled oats, proper unrefined oats. And I know some people are going to say, but doctor, you just told us that carbohydrates can raise blood sugar. Isn't porridge carbohydrate? Yes, oats contain carbohydrate, but oats are a whole food and a good source of fiber. So the issue isn't never, never, ever eat carbohydrates. The question is, how are you eating them? What form are they in? If you're eating instant oats, then that's rubbish. That's just plain sugar. But if you eat the proper rolled oats, unrefined oats, no issues at all. So instead of a huge bowl of oats loaded with sugar, I want you to try a sensible portion of oats with some milk or a protein-rich accompaniment. So add some berries, add some nuts, add some seeds. You can even add a spoonful of nut butter, so almond nut butter or peanut butter. Now you have transformed the meal. You're not just eating carbohydrates now, you're creating a more balanced meal. I hope you understand. Breakfast idea number 4, beans, eggs. Again, this is one of my favorite. Beans, eggs, vegetables, and perhaps, again, for those who are bread lovers, one slice of whole grain toast. And for those of you from cultures where beans are a regular part of your diet, don't underestimate them. Honestly, beans can be an excellent source of fiber and plant protein. And you don't need to start suddenly eating expensive health foods. Sometimes the best foods are the foods you already know. You just need to know how to eat them. So someone might be asking, what about coffee? I only take coffee in the morning. So let's talk about coffee, because I know you might be saying, I don't want to stop my coffee. I enjoy coffee too. I'm not going to try and take away your coffee. But for most people, the issue is what you add to your coffee. If you have unsweetened coffee, that can fit perfectly well into a healthy lifestyle. The problem is what we put into it. Large amounts of sugar, flavored syrup, sweetened creamer, what people put in their coffee, and then you might then have a pastry with your coffee. So suddenly, your morning drink has become part of a much bigger sugar load. So if you enjoy your coffee, please enjoy it, but think about what you're adding to it. And remember that caffeine can affect people differently, particularly if you're sensitive. Some people are really sensitive to caffeine, or you're drinking it later in the day. The other question people often have is, what about fruits? So you might be wondering, can I have fruits for my breakfast? Is fruit bad for breakfast because it contains sugar? So my answer is no. Please don't be frightened of fruits. You need to eat them sensibly. So whole fruits, unrefined whole fruits, contain naturally occurring sugars, but it also contains fiber. It contains water, vitamins, minerals, and other beneficial compounds. So the bigger issue is the fruit juice. That's what I have a problem with. When you drink a large glass of juice, it's very easy to consume the equivalent of several pieces of fruit without the same chewing and fullness you would have gotten from eating the whole fruit. So my message is simple. Eat your fruit more than you drink your fruit. And if you're having fruit for breakfast, pair it with a protein. For example, apple slices with some nut butter. Okay, so the apple slice is the fruit with some sugar and fiber on it, inside the apple. But the nut butter contains protein and some fats. So that sort of balances it up. And also things like berries with Greek yogurt and nuts, like we mentioned. So this is a very different breakfast from a large glass of fruit juice on its own. So I want to challenge you to a 7-day breakfast challenge. So 7 days is not 30 days or 90 days, just 7 days. For the next 7 days, Don't worry about being perfect, just experiment. Okay. So, rule number one, start your breakfast with protein. So, have a think about what protein you want to use with your breakfast rather than simply having a carbohydrate based breakfast. List out the proteins, see the ones you like, and start your breakfast with protein. For many adults, around 20 to 30 grams of protein can be a useful practical target, for your breakfast, although your individual needs may be different. So, for example, one egg is about 6 to 8 grams of protein. So you see, for you to make that 20 to 30 grams, you might need 4 eggs, or 3 eggs, add on some fish, add some meat, and so on to make up the amount of protein. Rule number two, add fiber. Think about vegetables, about berries, about rolled oats, beans, seeds, whole grain. Okay, think about fiber. Number three, don't drink your breakfast. You don't have to eliminate smoothies and juice completely, but please don't make it sugary. Don't make sugary drinks the main event of your breakfast. Try water, try tea, try unsweetened coffee. These are simple options. Rule number four, pay attention to your hunger. At 10 or 11 a.m., ask yourself, am I genuinely hungry? And compare that with how you normally would feel. Now, rule number five, I want you to notice your energy. Are you reaching for coffee and biscuits? Do you feel tired, lethargic, like you're crashing? Are you getting through the morning comfortably, or are you starving? If you have diabetes or you use a glucose monitor, you may be able to observe how different meals affect your glucose level. But remember, please don't change your diabetes medication based on what you see on your glucose meter. Always speak with your clinician. Very important that you work together with your healthcare professional. So, what is my main message today? Here is what I really want you to take away from today's video. This is not about finding a magical breakfast that solves all your problem. There isn't one breakfast that is perfect for everyone. It's about understanding how to put together a meal that supports your health. You don't need a complicated recipe. You don't need expensive supplements. You don't need special powders. You don't need to eliminate all carbohydrates. And you certainly don't need to starve yourself. But I want you to think protein, think fiber, think healthy fats, think whole foods. And then ask yourself, how do I feel? Will this breakfast keep me satisfied, or am I likely to be looking for biscuits in 2 hours? That simple question can change the way you eat. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for your usual breakfast, pause for a moment. Don't ask how many calories are in this breakfast. Ask yourself, what is this meal going to do for my hunger, my energy, my health? That's a better question to ask, because your goal isn't simply to eat less. Your goal is to eat better. And when you understand your body, making healthy choices becomes much easier. Remember, you don't need to fight your body. I want you to work with your body, understand your body. If you found this video helpful, please, I want you to like the video. I want you to subscribe to the channel, and I want you to drop a comment. Let me know you watched and what you learned or took away from this, and share it with somebody. I would love to read your comments. What do you normally eat for breakfast? And which of these ideas, breakfast ideas, are you going to try? My name is Dr. Adeze, MEP Fit Person, helping you understand your body and make simple, sustainable changes that can improve your health. Until next time, stay mentally, emotionally, and physically fit. Bye.